We start off with the tech bloodbath raging on. The Nasdaq down nearly 1.5%, taking the rest of the market along with it after what seems like one earnings bombshell after another. And so it may be time to lay to rest some of our favorite names. Yes, it is a sad day here on Fast as we are holding a funeral for some of our favorite tech names. It was fun while it lasted. The stories about how about this time it is really different, how nothing can take them down, nothing except earnings. There was Intel, Mr. Old Value Tech losing 9%, then Netflix. We think we will miss you most of all. Facebook, you had us at hello. And of course, you could forget Twitter. It took so long for you to finally get your groove back, but now you're in a one-day bear market.
Wow.
But with death comes potential revival. And so tonight we're asking a simple question. Do any of them still have some life left in them? Guy, we kick it off with you. So this is a game here.
That's
very simple.
Game.
I give you the name, and I ask you, dead or alive, Intel, dead or alive.
Like the Bon Jovi song. So
you should.
Why did we come in with Sarah McLachlan, who, by the way, I followed her on tour for an entire year, all through Canada, Sarah McLachlan.
Really?
You followed her around?
I don't know what I think about you now. But
No,
anyway,
it's
dead or
fantastic.
alive, Intel.
You went on tour?
There you go. There it is.
You hear that?
Okay,
Sarah McLachlan.
All right, let's go.
It's Bon Jovi.
All right, get
it's
on with
alive.
it.
No, it's alive. Not dead. It was dead. Now it's back alive. Why is it alive now? Because on valuation alone, you. What happened?
Don't let that distract you.
That
Keep
did
talking.
distract me.
Keep
We
talking.
need to really bolster up our budget here at CNBC's Fast Money. Listen,
By the way, you're going to get that for the rest of the
at
show.
11.5, 12 times forward earnings, you got to say this is an inexpensive stock. A lot of analysts took down their price targets, but guess what? Look at where the price targets are. They're anywhere from $52 to $58, which still gives you tremendous upside, I think, in the shares. Traded more than 2 times normal volume today. I say it is alive.
Yeah, well,
Data center was a disappointment. They're still pushing out the 10-nanometer chip. There's an interim CEO in place.
That's
I
the
mean,
problem.
what do we do with this?
It's a rudderless ship right now. Until they announce some sort of, management succession plan there, it's a problem. So I think you cannot buy it until that's announced.
come on. I mean,
Look, an AMD
rudderless ship. Rudderless
it's a
ship.
rudderless ship.
This is arguably one of the top 10 most important companies in the world, I would argue. And I would say on a steel horse it rides, because the bottom line here is this is a company that if you look at the semis and if you look at what NVIDIA and some of the high-end and some of the gaming chips are doing, Intel's going to be in this space. Data center has been such a bright spot for these guys. The fact that actually we had some tough comps, it's alive.
The two alive, you're dead,
Dead.
Seaburg, right? Oh, here's an interesting. Now that NXP is free of a potential Qualcomm merger, would you rather NXPI
Squeezing in
or
a game
Intel?
inside of a game.
It's like a
That is
turducken.
a lot to do with
game.
Friday.
So I would go, it's alive with Intel, and I would rather NXPI.
He played it right.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Great. It seemed like a pretty easy game.
Clap them out, clap them
But I
out,
think
guys.
with Intel, when people are talking about value versus growth, I think Intel is always going to be a value name. And I think after today, you leave it a couple of days, I think people will be resurrected to this name. It's a value name. I think buyers will come in.
A lot in that. All right.
So much to unpack.
Netflix is up. Dead or alive, Tim?
Dead. And it's all the same. Only the names will change. Bottom line here is Netflix. If it's a content play, frankly, it's pretty flimsy. I think the valuation ultimately is what it comes down to. We've been through the media sector, up, down, and sideways. And if you don't think that HBO isn't a threat, if you don't think that Hulu's not a threat, and that Amazon's not coming, I don't know why anyone would pay for this valuation, even though it's a great service.
I say alive and kicking. I mean, look, the fact is this. There's two things here. This is not a zero-sum game. There's room for multiple players. They're massively growing, their international, sub-base, whatever you want to call it. And I would say this, really important, to look at. Reed Hastings is not a fool. Reed Hastings knows how to manage the street. They had an internal issue with how they sort of came up with their data, but he's going to fix that. He definitely sandbagged it. I would say it's a buy.
What do you say?
How could you say it's dead, though, when you look at these two names that are up there, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but Netflix is up 85% year to date. Twitter is up 42% year to date.
Is the story now
still
dead? I mean, we get.
No, I don't think it's dead. I don't think it's
dead.
dead, and it is a content play. They're a monstrosity in the content world. It was Disney. Now people look at Netflix as being really the king. Now I don't want to say king of content. Disney will always be that way. But Netflix is truly a content play.
Do you believe they're forecasting, though, at this point? I mean, isn't that a
That's the
fundamental
problem.
issue in terms of whether to believe the story?
So I hate playing the game incorrectly. Can I play my rules?
Dead or alive?
What? You can't. All right, go ahead. Do whatever you want.
It is clearly alive with a caveat. You like that?
Okay.
Hit the alive button.
The caveat being, I think we're going to retest the levels that we saw in April when they reported the quarter that took us up to $414 or so. I think you got to do the whole round trip. And listen, international growth is tremendous. Domestic growth wasn't really there. But this is now the second misstep under Reed Hastings' tenure. And I think they're going to pay the price for it in the environment we find ourselves in. So I don't think it's dead, but I do think there's further downside in the name.
First misstep having been
Remember when
pricing?
they raised prices about 6 years or so-ish ago?
That was the first misstep?
In my opinion, it was, yeah.
It was a wake-up call. I mean, bottom line is this earnings and the slower growth and the lack of their ability to actually forecast that, surprises don't equate to a higher valuation. Look at Facebook.
Yeah.
Oof, dead.
So dead.
Tombstone.
Once again, dead. By the way, that's a tombstone, by the way, in case there was any. Facebook is the next candidate here. Grasso, dead or alive?
So I'm going to say alive on this. It's going to need some days, some weeks, maybe to breathe on this. But I wouldn't step into all of these are the 3-day rule. I wouldn't step in. They've got to bottom out. Facebook has a long way to bottom out. But I do think that it's still a behemoth. It's still a sales generator. It's still going to be there. It's alive.
I think it's dead. And again, let's qualify what dead means in the show. They're not going out of business. I don't think they're about to break apart into pieces. But that stamp is because, again, this was a disclosure issue. I think it's a governance issue. I think also if you think about data as a product, I'm not sure that they really know the cost attached to producing their product. In other words, security is a major cost for these guys going forward. We don't know what it is. How do you rank a company that can't value its business?
And so the backdrop, that was a backdrop for Twitter's report. Twitter's the next one, dead or alive?
Dead and buried. I mean, this stuff is dead and buried.
There's no stamp for dead and buried.
Nothing in that report at all that was promising for this company. And I tell you right now, it's going to continue to bleed as far as the price, continuing to go lower, in my opinion, because this was a hedge fund trade. Hedge funds took the stock right up, and they've played this out. As far as I'm concerned, the selling pressure is going to remain on this story. I see it going much lower.
Every other stock we've just talked about is a hedge fund trade. And by the way, the stock's doubled since people said it couldn't go any higher. It was dead at 17.
The only reason they were in this trade was for the monetization and the expectations that they were going to monetize. And they didn't. This is not a story you want to own. Trust me, folks.
First of all, I'm surprised we can't afford the letters to put on the tombstone. At least the like RIP, RIP. I mean, we could have put those on right? Just so people know what that is. I had to look 5 times to figure out what that was.
I'm sure the graphic artist is taking notes right now.
It's not. It is alive. Yes, thank you for flashing that graphic. I do think it's alive. Listen, they have made mistakes clearly, and their inability to give us the right user metrics, daily, monthly, they're tripping over themselves. With that said, far too valuable an entity, and the fact that it's down 20% on huge volume leads me to believe you're going to see a bounce. It's alive.